pay this awful thing called interest.
Is there a way to easily track something like that? A program or something you can use which will
Excel,
like
spreadsheets.
just spreadsheets you just tag on? What about the people who are not like spreadsheet inclined? Is there like a friendly user face program that you can just tag in and be like, hey, this is your house mortgage. That's how much you owe.
Mint.com.
Mint.com?
Yes.
I've also heard that GNU Cache is good for that too. I'm not really sure. I'd have to check it out myself.
Good news?
There's,
Yeah, GNU Cache. I could look it up though.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but Mint.com, what it does is you put in all of your accounts, whether it be your mortgage, your car loan, your bank accounts, all that stuff. It tracks it, all your credit cards, and what it does is it adds it all up and does the calculation for you. This is just the manual way of doing it.
There's also an app for iOS. I don't know if it's on Android, but it's called Personal Capital, and it's somewhat similar. It gives you
I've
alerts
heard of
as
that.
to when you have deposits and bills and a lot of other things. It does streamline and make things pretty handy, and it gives you tips on what you can do.
We're in the next door.
Okay, yeah,
So yeah, Personal
definitely.
Capital, try
Personal
that as
Capital,
well,
try
'cause I
looking
think
at that up.
might be better.
Is that only
To be
iOS?
I
honest,
don't
I'm kind of
know.
scared to actually
I
set up
honestly,
email
don't
stuff
either.
because I kind of
not
want to
know
know.
if it's on
Well,
Android. It's
you
just
do
my
want to
phone.
know.
I do want to know.
Because you want to know, the thing about it is you want to have a starting point. Your starting point may not be positive. You may have a ton of student loans. You may have a lot of credit card debt. But the idea is not knowing what that number is. It's knowing that number over time. You want to see, okay, I started at minus $50,000 because I have a crap ton of student loans and credit card debt. That's awful. I was worth more as a baby than I am now, but I'm going to work on this, and it's not going to get better until I start tracking it. Until I start focusing and paying attention. It's only going to go down to 60,000, and then 70,000, and then 80,000, minus 80,000, and it's just going to get worse and worse until you start paying attention.
Does Mint.com charge your net worth?
Yes, it does. All of the accounts you add in there, you can even add in, you say you have all your loans, but then you add in maybe the value of your car. What you think you could honestly sell it for. The value of your house. Whatever you have, you can add in things like jewelry that you have. You know, you have an expensive piece of jewelry. That can be considered part of your net worth. Usually you only track like the big ticket items that you can reasonably sell very quickly, or even over a couple months. But yeah, they all go into your net worth. It's just everything you own subtracted to what you owe. Very simple.
And currently for me, it's going down.
Yeah. Well,
I hope you're getting student debt.
yeah,
That's a good.
A lot of the reason for that is high interest credit cards. You need to treat high interest credit cards and any debt that you have on them like a hair on fire emergency. If you have credit card debt, do everything that you can to pay that off immediately, because that is what keeps people poor. A lot of people. That is one of the biggest things that is driving this country into debt. Not necessarily the country itself, but the people in it. A lot of the credit cards I know are like 20% interest, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't even invest in the stock market and get a 20% return. And investing in the stock market is how you use that compound interest for yourself. That's how a lot of the people who are rich stay rich. It's very difficult to become unrich once you get there. The reason for that is compound interest. If you have $1 million, and this money is in retirement accounts or in, just say it's in a Roth IRA, which is a lot of money to have in a Roth, but just for simplicity, it's in a Roth IRA. You get 7% return on this 100,000, which is reasonable. This is usually 7% is about the baseline that most retirement accounts are said to get, or the average of like the S&P 500, all of the major indexes. 7% return is basically a reasonable amount. 7% of $1 million, I don't know if you knew this, is $70,000. You have $1 million, you're getting $70,000 every year.
Yeah.
So if you spend all $70,000, guess what?
Still the million.
You still have $1 million for next year. This is why it is very difficult to become unrich unless you are really bad, like financially retarded.
Just buy all the mansions.
Yeah, that's why whenever I hear the stories of lottery winners going broke, just face palm. It's awful. Now, a lot of the things about this, I like to say one of the good goals is $1 million. For the $70,000, the idea is not you don't want to spend that $70,000 because we have this thing in this country called inflation. Inflation is going to whack off about 3%. So 3% gone. Guess what? Still got 40K to spend. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. I think that, you know, any reasonable person can live off of $40,000 a year, especially if they're not commuting to work or doing anything else.
Don't you have to pay 20% tax on that?
You do have to
So
spend.
then you're really down.
But the idea is you're going to be spending that same amount in tax if you're getting $40,000 a year at work as well. So you're going to be spending that same tax on the income. So I like to use this figure as an income figure. You're not actually getting $40,000 like in liquid cash because taxes are always going to be a consideration. But in comparison to someone making $40,000 a year, which is still very easy to live on if you're in the right part of the country. There's this thing we call moving. Very, very useful for that. And if you live right, you can very easily live on this forever. The other thing is that inflation, it doesn't mean that that $30,000 is gone. It means that that $30,000 is still there, and it's going to increase just with that $1 million. So that means you're going to have your $40,000 indexed for inflation. You can each year increase that amount by 3%. So you can reasonably say that you're going to be taking $41,200 out next year. That's an extra 3%.
And that'll have the same buying power.
And it's going to have the same buying power. It's going to be the same 40,000, but it's going to have the same, or it's going to have the same buying power as that 40,000. Prices of everything is going to keep going up, but you're going to have that still that same buying power. That's why I say, you know, if you can achieve this, it doesn't even have to be this. For a lot of people, it only takes $600,000. Some people, it takes $800,000. But all of this, you can achieve if you have a high savings rate. There's a formula here. It says if you can earn at least 5% on your investments after inflation, so around 8%, which is a little bit higher than that 7%, and use the 4% safe withdrawal rate, which this 4% safe withdrawal rate is exactly what we just did, knocking off that 3%, ignoring it, like it wasn't even there. The 4% is the 40,000. There was a study by a group of students at, I don't even know which college it was, but they took all of the time periods in the existence of the stock market, and they ran them through it was a 30-year retirement period. And they used all of the returns, including all of the great crashes, the Great Depression, the crash of, what was it, 40 something? I don't even know. And they ran it through this program saying, all right, if this person retired in this year, in 1945, and this person retired in 1946, and this person retired in 1947, and they plotted it all out. And using all kinds of different withdrawal rates for those retirements, so that you would end up with different account balances by the end. The goal was by the end of that 30 years, you did not hit zero. Because usually a lot of people go from, say, 65 to 95. That's usually like a 30-year retirement period. If you did not hit zero in those 30 years, then you succeeded. They used 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%. You can look this up on Google. The 4% safe withdrawal rate. Of all of those calculations, 96% of those passed using a 4% safe withdrawal rate. So using this $1 million, 70,000 with a 40,000 actual income minus taxes, that was safe for 30 years, guaranteed. If you can pull in the right returns. All of the returns were calculated, including all of the crashes. The ones, the 4% were part of the numbers that happened. They retired literally at the crash. And their first withdrawal was at the crash. So their income or their whole savings account balances got cut in half, and then they started making withdrawals. That 4% failed. Yeah, it's at least it's.
So if the market is going to crash, it needs to happen like now while I'm still young.
Well, yeah, generally. A lot of people lose money in the stock market because they fear crashes, because they are afraid of losing money. The thing about crashes is it happens across the board. Your money isn't disappearing. The value of it is disappearing. It's similar to say you have a car, or let's make it easier. Say you have this awesome leather jacket and it's worth $100. All of a sudden, no one wants to buy leather jackets. You just can't sell it. You can't seem to sell it. You can't even get $30 for it because no one wants to buy one. It's the middle of summer. Who wants a leather jacket in the middle of summer? Who wants a jacket in the middle of summer? Well, you'd be able to get it at a great price because nobody else wants it. That's what happens during a crash. Nobody wants to buy the stocks. Yes?
So it has to do with supply and demand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does. The value of it is not disappearing. A lot of these stocks, you'll realize, they're living, breathing things. They're not just pieces of paper. They are pieces of businesses. These businesses have people working for them. Coca-Cola is a great example of one of what they call blue chip stocks that is just around forever. They are a company that sells Coke products to all of you to quench your thirst. Pepsi's the same way. They have trucks, they have buildings, they have machinery, they have product. It's all a business. Their stock plummets to $20 a share. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden they've lost 50 trucks and lost 3 factories, especially if it does it to every single other stock on the market. It just means that At this point, people are fearful and they don't want to invest in stocks. They don't want to buy. The thing about crashes that you want to know is it's kind of like a sale. You buy it when it's low, you sell it when it's high. Everyone likes to buy high and sell low. They're like, oh look, it went up 10 bucks. I'm gonna buy it because it's gonna keep going up, right? No one can predict future returns. Not even the pros who do it for a living. They can only make their best guesses and then take a percentage of your money in return for making guesses. I was on a topic. I was going somewhere with that, and then I lost it.
I have a slightly
basically-
random question that goes along with that though.
Yes.
So when I was very little, a relative bought me some stocks in Disney, and now I have no idea how to even access them. Would you know how I would go about trying to find that?
Well, you'd have to know the stock. Like, you'd have to have either the stock itself, like printed out, or the stock number, or something like that. You'd have to get you'd have to find your account number. You'd have to use something. Whoever's
like a
holding your
Disney-
stock, if it was individually held, or if it was held by a company.
I'm not even sure. I know I got handed a piece of paper, and then we moved a million times. And I
Because
was
Well,
like,
there's
it's under
stock
her name.
certificates. There's stock certificates that you can buy from the company itself. They usually come with a fee attached to it. It's usually they're novelty items. They're still actual stock, but when you buy $20 stock, it's a one certificate stock, and you get charged a fee of $30. It's like they're usually novelty items. You can still resell it.
Is the stock like under her name, would it be?
That's what you'd have to find out.
That's what I was wondering.
If
like,
she bought it
you
from,
could maybe
if
just
it was
call
bought
up.
from the company, or if it was held by a mutual fund company and they just printed out a stock certificate for it.
Well, I mean, like, is it possible that the stock wouldn't be under her name? Like, it could just be
could
under
be.
the company name, but she somehow owns it? Because if it's under her name, you can just maybe call up one of Disney's
Well,
financial sectors and
Right,
be
what
like,
I'm
here's
saying
my
is,
name.
if it was purchased by the company, then if it's held by a company, then it's going to be in the company's name. She has an account with the company, but the stock is actually in the company's name.
Okay, gotcha.
You see, the mistake they made was handing the 10-year-old the certificate going, here, you should hold on to this because it'll be worth money later, and then the 10-year-old lost his
Yeah.
certificate. So,
Who'd have thought?
yeah.
You are forgiven.
Yeah, basically, a lot of people lose money in the stock market because they think that past returns are indicative of future returns.
I actually have a really good story about that.
What's that?
About selling past stuff. A few months ago with Bitcoin, the whole controversy with Mt.
Oh,
and everything.
yeah.
Bitcoin plummeted to like $700 to like $120. I figured there was gonna be some BS, it's gonna go away in like 4 months. Someone believed it, almost panic selling. So I just bought like 2 Bitcoin for 150.
Yeah.
Right now it's at 800.
The
Yeah.
coins are so
There you go. It's very similar to the way the stock market works. Now, Bitcoin's gonna be a lot more volatile, meaning it's gonna go up and down a lot more. But stocks are going to go up and down. That's just the nature of stocks. It just means that that's what people are purchasing. The stock price that you see listed on the NASDAQ or on whatever you're looking at, it's just what people are purchasing it for at that time. Your stock price doesn't matter unless you're buying or selling, or if there's something wrong with the fundamentals of the company. Personally, I don't like to buy individual stocks. I like to buy mutual funds, index funds. They're low cost, meaning they have very, very low, they have low fees attached to them. There's not a mutual fund manager that's trying to beat the market and get better returns for you. Most of those active funds don't even make average returns. They're all trying to beat the indexes, and most of them don't. Index funds are just whatever the market does, that's what that index fund is going to do. If the market goes up, that index fund is going to go up because it's holding whatever the criteria is for that index. They're also lower cost because, again, You're not having active fund managers saying, all right, I think this one's gonna go, and I got this hot stock tip, and I got this, and it's gonna be, all right, here's a list of everything that we have, and we're gonna buy it exactly according to this list. So it results in low fees. It's a very boring investment, but it's gonna be one of the most profitable.
Okay, it sounds like it's less risky, but it sounds like it's gonna be also a return for it.
It depends. A lot of the things, the great thing about like different mutual funds is that you're gonna have instant diversification. One of the things about like retirement accounts is you want broad diversification.
Well, I bet you have like 40 years for it to go up.
Well, yeah, but what you want is you don't want to. They say don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to put all of your money into Tesla, and then see, all right, I think that these electric cars are going to be the most amazing thing in the world, and I'm going to put all of my money into Tesla. Yes, you could make a lot of money doing that. You could also lose everything. Diversification is basically taking all your money and putting it out across a ton of different stocks. Some will go up, some will go down. The idea is that you want most of them to go up, and most of them will go up if you are broad enough and you buy good quality stocks. S&P 500 index fund is a good example. Those are the 500 most valuable companies in the US. I don't think they're going to be going away anytime soon, especially not all 500. They also have funds like the Total Stock Market Index Fund. Those are cool. It buys every single stock on the market. Every single one. It's like something like 3,000 different stocks. That's pretty broad diversification. They weight them. What's that?
What's the name of this?
It's a Total Stock Market Index Fund. They buy every stock, and they say, all right, we're not going to pick and choose. We're just going to buy everything. And
One of each, please.
some are going to go up, some are going to go down. They're weighted according to what their value is. So whatever their total value is as a company, they're going to weight them properly. So they're going to have more of Coke and less of Tesla. They're going to have more of Google and less of, I don't know, some other company. They'll have more of Chevron and less of, I don't even know, small companies that are on the, or smaller companies that are on the index, or they're on the market. Those are really cool because the general trend of companies is to go up. The thing about, I'll show you why the general trend is, you have 700 companies. Say one of those companies goes bust. That sucks. All of the amount of value that they put into that company goes to zero. You get no return on it. You lose everything that was put into that. You have another company. What's the best that can happen? The best that can happen, it can go to 200%. It can go to 300%. It can go to 1,000%. It can become the next Google. The idea is that there is no limit to how well a company can do, but there is a limit to how badly it can do. The great thing is that indexes are self-cleansing. Those companies that go to zero, you're not going to be buying any more of them. There are going to be other companies that replace that company. You'll buy into that company, and that'll go to either 0 or 200, 300, 400%. For everyone that doesn't know, this is Ambient. He just walked in. Conveniently late. Sir. Fashionably late. How long does this go to? Do you know?
2, I think.
2? Oh man.
I thought you had an hour and a half.
Nope, 2:30. Never mind.
2:30? Sweet. We got another half hour. If you guys want to stick around. So this is Ambient. He works at Wells Fargo, and he knows a lot about bank structure and how they give loans and how they determine if you're going to get a loan or not. He can answer a lot of those questions. Pick him up if you like. You can sit right next to me. if you have any, what is it exactly? Is it your bank manager?
I am a service manager. I deal with a lot of compliance paperwork. I was, however, an officer of the bank as a banker, so that was my previous job. So a lot of different loans and things we would tell, how to better acquire those. We would talk about in-depth credit history, what your relationships are with other financial institutions, and other creditors and things on your credit history and things like that. So, I mean, it really goes in more depth than a lot of people would think. A lot of it has to do with relationships. The banks do look at your relationship, how long you've had accounts with them, what kind of other loans you have. So,
It all goes back to credit, which is a huge, huge topic.
yep.
There's several, there's 3 different credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those 3 credit bureaus are contacted every time that you want to get a loan. If you want to open up a credit card, if you want to get a car loan, if you want to get a bank loan for a mortgage, anytime that you want to borrow money from an institution, those are the people that are going to be contacted. And they're going to say, all right, this person is reliable. They're making their payments on time. They have these other accounts. They have been making all their student loan payments. Oh, they also have a bankruptcy in the past 7 years. They're going to determine how good of a credit score you have, and if you are eligible for that loan that this guy would give you.
Bankruptcies will stop you from anything, like everything.
Yeah, you don't want to
Don't do it.
Just to be curious, what exactly is a bankruptcy? Because I've heard the word a lot, but I don't know what it actually entails.
Bankruptcy, there's a couple different kinds of bankruptcies. There's certain kinds where essentially it erases your credit. It says, I have no money, I can't pay these. So it kind of wipes your slate clean. Unfortunately, when you go to borrow money again, for example, if you came to Wells Fargo and they're like, okay, well, you already had like 10,000 and you wipe that clean, so you didn't get that back. So the chances of another financial institution lending that amount back to you are slim to none, because that's high risk.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, how does a credit company, credit reporting agency handle a situation whereupon you owned a business that went bankrupt, but you yourself did not personally go bankrupt?
Like an LLC or something.
Yeah.
It kind of gets iffy around then. If your social is associated with that company, they could put that on you. It really depends on the business
And how you set it up.
Yeah,
It really depends on how you set it up.
I mean, if it's a business and you're associated with it, I would say that's probably going to come back on you somehow or another.
At least partially. At least partially.
Because the businesses do have credit under their entity, but that entity is under an EIN, which is related to your social. So it's traceable back to you.
Right.
So they're gonna be like, who was the people associated with this? Who was in charge of why they went bankrupt? So that they'll find it. They'll go back. They'll go back.
They'll figure it out. They're not dumb. That's why they make all the money. So there are different ways they calculate your credit. I don't know if anyone knew how they calculated credit. Do you know how they decide? Oh, you have a 700 or you have a 540.
I'm gonna go say some of it's probably based on your net worth.
No, actually,
Like assets or anything?
no, not at all.
I'm interested in knowing how they calculate that, because I don't know how to calculate that.
Your credit is actually one of the more important things. If you ever want to get a loan, you're going to need it. If you're ever going to want to borrow money, if you ever want a credit card, you're going to need it. They have different weights of different things that you, different topics. You have things like your credit utilization, all these fancy words. Your utilization is saying, I have $1,000 available credit on my credit card. I'm currently using $200 of that $1,000. That means I have a 20% utilization. That's not necessarily a bad utilization to have. It's a pretty decent one you want to try and go for. But you know, if you have a $2,000 available credit card that's maxed out, now you take both of these, that $3,000 and the $2,200, and all of a sudden you have a lot higher utilization. Utilization is a very heavy weight on your credit. How much of your credit you're using, of your available balance on credit cards specifically, has a lot to do with how your credit score looks. If you're using a lot of it, and it keeps going that you're using tons and tons of credit, then it's going to be looked down upon simply because, well, he's using a lot of it, he wants more. It's going to be a higher risk for them versus someone who's only has a $1,000 account and using $200 of it. They have all this available credit, but they're not using it. So
it's better to have less utilization?
it's better to have less utilization, more available credit. So this is why like closing different credit accounts can be bad, even if you're not using them, because you have that $2,000 extra that you're not using, and all of a sudden, whenever you close that account, you're destroying that amount off of your total utilization.
With utilization, the only credit card I have right now is only $200 of credit. Will they still look at it if I have available 150?
Yes, but they're going to see how much is available on that account. You know, if it is only a $200 card, they're going to know that it's only a $200 card. So it's not. It's still going to affect it, but you're going to have other things.
So, if I have, say, one credit card and I'm getting a whole bunch of offers in the mail for other credit cards, could I start suddenly taking all those offers and getting a bunch of credit cards and suddenly make my credit card?
Yes, you can. Here's the thing. You can take a couple of offers. You can take this. That's going to increase your utilization. But guess what? Your credit is not based just on utilization.
Correct.
There are tons of other topics. What you're talking about is inquiries.
They don't like it if you have too many.
No, too many credit cards is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Disagree. I disagree.
Oh.
If you're using them properly, more accounts is good for your credit. It's good for your credit on the low-weighted side of you have more accounts to be looked at by an institution.
Well, if you're paying them back, it's just like this guy spends money.
You have more available credit, which can be a potential risk for a bank for a loan, but you also have more points of interest for the credit card companies to look at. They're all like really old accounts. They're all been paid in full. A lot of them are sitting dormant.
It comes with a lot of variables in that stage
It does.
as well.
It
Depending
does.
on if you have 10 credit cards and you are using them and utilizing them, yeah. But if it's sitting there and it's 10 years old, what's the benefit of the bank giving you $10,000 if they're not making any interest? They're not doing anything. That's $10,000 they could be giving to another user who's going to utilize that card and give interest to.
Yes, that is agreed. I
So,
agree on that.
in general, you don't want to have too many inquiries.
There's magic numbers they look at because
Yes.
credit is how we make banks. We take the money that people put in savings accounts and lend that out in the form of loans, mortgages, car loans. So when you have that utilization, like he was talking about, like 20%, that's great. Because we know you're not a high-risk person. You're coming in, use 200, you pay your interest, we're making money, good, got a credit card. But if you're maxing it out, they might not be able to make those payments.
Yeah, if you're maxing out your cards, that means there's something wrong, and you may not necessarily be able to take on more debt.